All right, so in today's episode, I'm going to break down my trades from the morning. And you'll notice I'm wearing my lucky shirt, but I had no luck today. It is a red day recap. I think it's my second red day of the year. I'm disappointed. This was frustrating. We had, a couple stocks that moved up today, but I just was not able to get on the right side of them. So I think that there's a couple things that we can observe from the price action this morning. The first is that one of the stocks that was the leading gainer in the entire market was a low float stock with very poor liquidity. Kelly B, K-E-L-Y-B. The stock ended up going from about $30 a share all the way up to over $100 and on less than 1 million shares of volume. So you had huge spreads. It was halting, as we saw last week with TCGL. And to me, it's just a distraction. But it actually started the move during pre-market. So even when I was sitting down during pre-market, people were looking at it. And I just thought, no, this is impossible. I can't possibly trust something like this. And realistically, could you buy 100 shares or 200 shares, get 10, 15 points? I suppose you could, but I know that I don't do well at that price range. So I left it alone. But we had another old friend that was on the scanners this morning, BNAI. This is the stock that went all the way up to, it's like $85 a share a couple weeks ago. It's since pulled back down to about 30, but today was bouncing off those lows. Broke the ice with my first trade, and immediately I realized we had a problem. So let's go ahead and jump onto the screen share. We'll start breaking it down. BNAI, you can see right here, I'm down $7,986.68. I'm down $9,300 on the day. And BNAI, if we pull this one up, it's been selling off most of the day, with the exception of a spike here at about 6 in the morning. So when this thing spiked up, they did have news. They had a headline: they terminated a $50 million equity purchase agreement, strengthening the balance sheet and reducing potential dilution. It's a U.S. company, technology, software, IT. The float is pretty low, and I thought this is pretty solid. This is a stock that had a recent reverse split back here, and then went from $5 all the way up to 85, pulled back. They did a secondary offering, but it was a small one, and now kind of starting to bounce back up. So I'll tell you that when I first pulled it up, I was like, boy, I don't know if I should. It's too expensive, right? It's already $28 a share. So I sat down right around 7 a.m. and so it's kind of like right around this area here. And we had this first pop right there at 7 a.m. and I missed it. It moved so quickly. I missed that pop and I was like, well, yeah, that's annoying. It is what it is though. So I didn't take that trade. But my first trade, let's see, it was at 707 and I got in at, 33.81. So 707, let's see, it was right here. So I got in at 33.81 and on this squeeze up to 36 right there, the top of that candle, I made $11,000 on the stock. Not bad. That's a pretty good trade. But I sold I sold half and I was up 11,000 and then it dropped back down here very quickly and I sold the rest for a loss because I had added it so it was squeezing higher. And so I ended up being up about 7,000 or 8,000 on that first trade. It comes back up. I get back in. I'm back to up 10,000. And then I added back right here for the squeeze through 38. You could tell that didn't work out so well. It dropped from 36 down to 34, down to 33. And I stopped out with slippage going from up 10,000 to down, 17,000. Well, I guess it was down 17,000 on the trade. And I'm down 7,900 on BNAI. There was a huge seller. And it was a 20,000. No, I'm sorry. So there was a big seller on this. There was a bigger seller on ARNA's, which was 20,000 shares. But there was a big seller on this one as well. And it just was not able to hold these levels. So, I kind of thought, all right, well, we did have a big seller on that ticker from Tuesday. And I was red 10,000 on it before it ripped. And I ended up being up 80,000 on the day. So I still thought, this isn't good, but it's early enough. Let's just see how this plays out. Well, BNAI just kind of unwound. It just sold off hard, bounced a little bit, kept going lower. It was not easy to trade. It did not give good opportunities there. So that was kind of out of play. And then I ended up switching over to ARNAs. So ARNAs starts moving up the scanner, US companies, you could see right here. And as this one starts popping up, I'll pull up the chart here. I see it squeezing higher and I'm like, all right, well, you know, this is going to be tricky because look at that first candle. A huge spike, sells off, it's all red. And as it rallies back up here, I thought, you know what, I'll give it a shot. So I got in with a small position for that candle there and I made 1,500 bucks. It's not that exciting. I got back in right here looking for the move to the high. I made another 1,500 bucks. I got back in here. I gave back the 1,500 and now I'm up only 1,700 on it. And I was just like, man, this one is tricky. And so this one had big sellers, 20,000 share sellers that just kept reloading on the ask. So I was like, all right, clearly there's someone selling a lot of shares of this and I can't get in their way. So I gave up on that one. And then I threw a little bit of a Hail Mary pass. RVSN pops up, Israeli company. I see it's a recent reverse split with room to the 200 moving average. I saw that it had news and I saw it popping up on the scans right here and I added at 550. It goes up to 6. I'm like, awesome. I'm up 50 cents a share and it immediately reverses. It's at $4.50 a share. I lost almost $1 a share and took a $3,000 loss on it. Thank goodness I didn't buy a bigger position, but I took a loss on that. And so at that point, I was down 9,300 on the day, and I thought, you know what? It's getting a look at, well, so what time was that? That was at 8:30, and my last trade was on ARNAs. And then after that final loss on ARNAs, I was like, you know what? I don't know. I don't think it's happening. Coming up to 9 a.m., should I stick around longer? And for a moment, I thought, you know, maybe I should. And I'm only down $9,000. I think I have a good chance of being able to recover probably half of this if I stick around. And then I said, no. That's a mistake. See, that's exactly what you do. You start trading longer on a day that it's not going well. Next thing you know, you're down 11,000, 13,000, 18,000. Now you're getting really frustrated. 25,000, 38,000. When are you going to stop? And you're always going to say, I wish I stopped sooner. And so today I said, I'm going to go ahead and stop. I'm going to walk away. It's not happening. I want to dig deep on the days when the market's hot and I want to throw in the towel as quick as I can when it's not happening. It wasn't happening today. And, you know, it's discouraging. I didn't take any trades yesterday. I didn't take any trades Monday. So Tuesday, I was red 10,000 and then we had that short squeeze and I ended up making 80 grand on it. So I'm up 80,000 on the week before today. Now I'm up 70,700 on the week. So you know what? I am kind of taking my foot off the gas here. And I think a contributing factor, you know, I hate to say it, but a contributing factor here is the crypto markets. So we know that this is an issue, right? So you look at the crypto markets over the last, you know, few trading sessions. Let me pull up the chart here for you. So anyway, so we've got the Thinkorswim charts here for cryptocurrency data. Anyway, so we've got a high there of 127 on cryptocurrency. That was in October. And then things rolled over. And I was a little bit frustrated with, or not frustrated, you know, I was concerned about the fact that there was such, you know, negative sentiment about crypto. And what I've noticed in past years is that when sentiment on crypto is negative, it negatively affects small caps, which it really shouldn't because they're not correlated. And yet there seems to be some underlying correlation. It's very annoying to me because then when crypto's dropping like this, all of a sudden, I've noticed that small caps get even slower. And so I think there's a couple reasons that there's this correlation. Small caps and cryptocurrency are both speculative asset classes. I think that's safe to say. They're both pretty speculative, right? You're trading cryptocurrency, obviously that's speculative. You're trading small cap stocks, that's pretty speculative. So when one speculative asset class is getting beaten up, does it hurt the other? Excuse me. I think to a certain extent it does. Another factor that we know is over the last year, we had dozens and dozens of small cap companies that put cryptocurrency on their balance sheet. Why did they do that? They did that because crypto was so hot and they wanted people to buy the stock just so they could get exposure to these obscure cryptocurrencies. Well, that was all fine and well when cryptocurrencies were making new highs, but now they're down 50% off the high. So that's a lot different than putting your cash into, cash in a checking account on your balance sheet. If you put $100 million in cash, it's still $100 million. You put $100 million in Bitcoin, you've got 50 million left. And obviously today it's dropping, hard. So unfortunately, all of the companies that decide to take on a crypto treasury strategy, approach are suffering. And so had crypto continued going higher, those companies would have probably kept adding to those positions and they would have benefited from speculative traders continuing to buy into those companies so they could get exposure to, the cryptocurrency. So I feel like I'm not a crypto trader. I don't trade crypto at all. So to me, it's like I really don't look at cryptocurrency, but then someone says, oh, Bitcoin's dropping. And I'm like, oh, all right, well, there we go. I've seen this happen before. It happened during the first crypto winter after that big squeeze in the late 2010s. It was 2018, I think, that we had a big sell-off. Then it happened again with FTX collapse, right? And the market got really slow. And then right now it's kind of starting to happen again. And it already was happening a little bit in the fall. So in the fall, we had this drop, which you could see here in October and November. And we kind of bounced a little bit at the end of November, December there. And then we've been going sideways. And then we were actually curling back up there 3 weeks ago, up to almost 100,000. And I was like, all right, that's interesting. Someone had mentioned that and I pulled it up. I was like, yeah, okay. If crypto gets back over 100,000, that'll probably be good. And now we're back down at 65,000. So, yikes, that's a lot of volatility. And so typically I'd be like, I just don't care, except that there's a correlation. And I almost wonder if it's a correlation in the way that, when the S&P 500 drops, mid caps drop as well. They're not actually part of the S&P 500, but they, have a certain relationship and correlation where they trade, with the market. So now the S&P is down a little bit, whatever. IWM, Russell 2000's down a little bit, whatever. That's not really a big deal, but it almost felt like there was more of a selling algorithm running in the market. Today, yesterday as well, also on Tuesday, and Monday. I guess I don't know. I don't remember. I didn't take any trades on Monday. I don't remember if I saw that exactly, or if I just didn't see good opportunities. But I definitely saw it these last 4 days, and so that that kind of makes me wonder if that is tied into what we're seeing here in the cryptocurrency markets. So I wish they were completely disconnected and there was absolutely no correlation. That would be my preference. But on the other hand, the small cap market definitely did benefit from crypto sympathy last year. And so I wonder if, that's now catching up to us. All right, so we probably won't be trading any stocks with a crypto catalyst anytime soon. But that actually is interesting because one of our biggest moves of the year was the stock High Roller that had the headline of partnering with crypto.com. So that was, a solid catalyst. The stock went all the way up to $32 a share, but then that's pulling back a little bit. Now, do you suppose that people would move away from crypto and move more into the prediction markets? This is kind of something that has already been observed in app downloads. More people are downloading apps for prediction markets than they are downloading apps to trade cryptocurrency. So it does seem like prediction market apps are very popular right now. That could, on the one hand, take some liquidity out of crypto markets and move it over there, and take some liquidity out of the small cap markets, maybe, I don't know, and move it over there. To me, why would you do prediction markets when you could trade? But so it's a little hard to imagine people leaving day trading to go do that. But there's people that are very speculative in the way they trade. They just buy something and hope in 3 days it goes up 3 or 4x. And, that's not how I trade, but because enough people do approach it that way, that could, that type of liquidity could move over to the prediction markets. So then, on the other hand, then if we have small cap companies that put out headlines of partnering with prediction market stocks, that could work pretty well, as we already saw. I suppose High Roller is still holding up relative to when they put out the news. I'm pretty sure they did announce an offering. So even in spite of doing a secondary offering, it's holding up. Let me just double check that. Yeah, they did a $25 million offering. So they sold shares on the open market, which is a big part of why the price has come down. If they hadn't done that, it would still be holding up quite a bit more. So maybe prediction markets are still a catalyst that we should pay attention to, but there's only so many big players in that space, and whether or not they want to partner with a small cap company is a question. If a small cap company says they're putting out their own prediction market app, I mean, anyone could do that, but is it actually going to gain popularity? I don't know. So I suppose all that is to say, I'm going to batten down the hatches a little bit. I'm going to be careful. Now, look, if I see something that's really strong, fine. I'll step up to the plate. If we've got stock that meets all 5 pillars of stock selection, it looks good. But, did BNAI meet all 5 pillars? It was too expensive. Okay. What about RVSN? Well, it didn't have quite enough volume yet. Relative volume was still low. Okay. What about ARNAS? ARNAS, that one's a little bit more frustrating because it looked okay, but that first candle popped up and then came all the way back down before kind of rallying back up. It's not a super recent reverse split, but it's been, low for a long time. I thought it had more potential, but maybe there was just too much headwind in the market today. That selling algo is turned on. I don't know. I'm not sure. Curious to hear your thoughts on it, but in any event, one of the goals I set for this year was to not worry about how many red days I have, but think about maintaining discipline even on my red days and making sure I walk away early when it's not happening. And I think I've done a good job of that today. So my last trade was at 8:45 in the morning. I haven't taken any trades. It's early afternoon. I've been teaching classes for Warrior Pro members. And tomorrow, end of the week, look, if I can get a winner, I'd be grateful for that. But if it's not happening, I'm just going to, like I said, batten down the hatches and stay safe. And for those of you guys that are new, it's a good time to go back and study some of the live archives of when things were a little bit hotter. So when things do pick back up again, you'll be prepared. That's the best thing you can do when things are slow, is study up. All right, so with that, I'll remind you, trading is risky. Easy come, easy go. Today I was down nearly $10,000 and it didn't take much at all to make that happen. So take it slow, manage your risk, and I'll see you guys streaming bright and early tomorrow morning at 7 a.m. for members at Warrior Trading.